Oh, right, so it's the next day. I got cut off a wee bit yesterday because the neighbours were having a barbecue and there was a lot of smoke. I had a dig last night and there was a lot of talking in this video, not a lot of working on the car. It's mainly just because I think it's probably something really stupid. So yesterday we got the vacuum lines routed how I think they're supposed to be, judging by the weird diagram. So I think that's all okay, but we had no improvement on the car. And I kept seeing every time I tried to start it, the engine light was staying on, even if I got the car running. So I thought, okay, there's something up with the engine. So I went to the workshop manual, which I have for the non-turbo one, because I thought, well, it'll be roughly the same, at least it's in English, and it's got all the workshop details in it. But it was for the ED20 and EL engine, so very similar EFI setup and all of that. And I thought, okay, I'll have a look at that and see if I can figure out how the diagnostics is done for the engine light. And while I was there, I had looked through all the sensors to just try and get an idea of what the sensors do. Everything seems okay, but when I was putting this block back together, I noticed there was one sensor that was missing on the new block. It's this one. And I found out from the manual that's the ECU's coolant temperature sensor. And I just left it out just to see what happened because I didn't want to drill through the block. So I'm now thinking the engine light is probably because this sensor wasn't attached, so it has no idea how hot the engine is. It's probably defaulting to like a worst case scenario. I don't know what that would be, whether they're assuming the engine is like stone cold and throwing loads of fuel in it, or the engine's super hot and I don't know, maybe they're again throwing loads of fuel in it to try and cool it down. I'm not sure, but I'd say that's probably why it's running rough. I think what I'm going to do is just plug this sensor, just a wee temperature probe, and just leave it dangling in the engine bay so the car thinks it's cold. I see there's like more temperature sensors around the cylinder head for the coolant, so I don't see why I couldn't just splice the lines for this and go into one of those other temperature sensors. Who knows, I might find out why. But I think as a long-term solution, that's probably what I'll do. Alternatively, I could you can get these the sensors that you cut into this pipe, and it just puts a wee like sort of join in between them for the coolant, and that has a sensor in it, and I could wire that into the ECU. I just need to make sure the scale of it's the same, and maybe adjust the scale if it isn't, but they're all 5-volt sensors, so it should be the same. I don't see why there would be any problems. So I'm going to plug that in and try and start it again. We'll see if there's any difference. If we still have the engine light and there's no difference, I think what I'll do is there's a wee diagnostics port up in the engine bay, and you can jump one of the wires and it will give you flash codes on the engine light. So that'll be step 2 if plugging this in doesn't sort it. So first I'm going to plug this in, try and start the car and see. But yeah, I'll just give you a close-up of that. That's the sensor we've got. Just wee 2-pin sensor. It said to reset the codes, you literally just take the negative side off the battery for 10 seconds. So that's the official way to do it. I'll see if there's some way I can upload the workshop manual for anyone who needs it. It is a handy thing to have, especially the English one. I think I have a German one as well, and one for the L700, the one after this. Although I don't know if that one's complete, but I've got the complete L500 one. Right, let's try and start it, see what happens. That was a bad idea. Fucking eat it. So, one thing that's very good is it starts and it runs now. But I haven't put the breather in yet, so it shouldn't be fucking revving it. You can see all the smoke that's gone down the drive now. But it started. It runs. It revs. So that was the fucking issue, was just that one plug. It's now pissing out oil. Which is less good. But focus on the positives. So the next thing I want to do is put a couple of breathers. I think I'm going to put 2 in. My catch can only has 1 in, 1 out. So a bit of a problem there. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. Just because you can get 3 port catch cans pretty easily. I'll order one. I'll just put a filter on one and I'll put another in. Oh, yeah. But that was a bit stupid of me to try and run that without any breather on the oil. Yeah, because I think it just builds up crankcase pressure and that's why it was smoking so badly. But it sounds really, like it's running really well. I just need to fix up a few bits. So first thing, take off the intercooler, take the battery off, and find out where the breather needs to go, and then take the valve cover off, clean it, and get her welded. Right, so I've sort of been pottering about here for a while. I went out and picked up a bit of cleaner and some oil, and I ordered an oil filter to come in for the car, because now that we've run it, hopefully all the crap has been picked up by the oil filter and cycled through the engine, so we can get rid of that. I've sort of been just trying to figure out what to do. I'm at the point now where, now that I know that the car actually runs, I need to sort of tie up all the loose ends and get it, properly sorted out, not just half put together. So on the list of things I want to sort out is oil pressure gauge. I want to get one fitted, just so I know how much oil pressure I'm actually making, because like the oil pressure light in the car, I think goes off at like 5-10 psi of oil pressure. It switches, and I think like if we're pushing it hard, we need 40-50 psi. So I want to make sure it's actually making good pressure and not just a wee bit. The fact that it's making any at all is brilliant progress. Like we actually, the oil pump does work. It's whether it's working 100% I want to know, and it's good to just have an oil pressure gauge anyway to keep an eye on things while you're driving the car. The other thing is, obviously the engine's now running right because I've plugged the coolant sensor in, but it's just sat fucking dangling in the engine bay. So what I'm going to do, I think, is, I'll show you here. So because that's the coolant temperature sensor for the ECU, and you can see it's just sitting here dangling. I think the one for the gauges is this one right here. I think that's what the gauges use. But I think what I'm going to do is, there's a rubber pipe that comes around out here and down into the radiator, and this comes straight off the oil pump. If you follow this, not the outside of the water pump, if you follow this pipe through here, it comes out there. So that's the water pump, so it's straight from the water pump into the radiator, so it should be a fairly accurate reading. So I'm going to order just a wee bit of 25mm pipe and weld in, so this is 3/8 inch NPT thread. I'm going to weld in a 3/8 inch NPT bung into there, and then so I can just plug the sensor in right there, and then it goes down to the radiator, so we have some kind of coolant reading, just to stop the ECU from thinking the engine's stone cold when actually it's red hot, and just not having the fuel in right, or putting the idle up or something like that. So I need to do that. 1 sec. yeah, so I want to get that in, and then I'm off. Yeah, I've got the filter off. You can see in here, this is where the oil pressure gauge comes from. So I need to get a T-piece for that, and then just some kind of oil pressure gauge kit. I think that's 1/4 inch NPT, so it should be pretty easy to get. And then we'll just run that inside the car. Yeah, so other than that, we just need to do the crankcase ventilation. So what I'm currently thinking is I need to pick up a 3-way catch can. That's just a 1 in, 1 out. So I want to get a 2 in, 1 out, so that I can just add extra crankcase ventilation in the cam cover here. So I think just have a wee straight piece here that just comes up, and then the pipe can go off. And then back here, I think I'm going to do a 90 degree and send it that way. So it should just pop out under here, and the catch can will live back there. So it should be perfect. Other than that, it's really just putting the rest of the front of the car back together. The reason I haven't put the radiator or anything in is it's just really easy to work on the engine with the front all taken apart like this, because like with the oil filter I can just go like that, stick it on, where otherwise it'd be sort of reaching through the engine bay. So it's a really nice way to work on it. I also got some of this when I went to order the oil filter. Just put a Lucas oil stabilizer. I used this before in this engine, and whenever I was tearing the engine apart, you could still see it everywhere. Like the whole engine, it was sort of just sticks to stuff. And because this is sort of a bit of an unknown engine, especially with the oil pump being a bit of an unknown, I don't think it's a bad idea to just put something in to sort of make the oil stick and not be as slippery. Well, slippery's probably the wrong term, but like not as runny. That sort of seems to thicken up the oil, and it sort of clings to all the surfaces a lot better. Yeah, other than that, we don't have much to do. Yeah, so I've got a couple of wee bits of pipe cut up for the crankcase breather. I've just got one straight piece, which is going to just sit like so. I still need to drill through. I think for now I've just got a wee breather filter that will go on it, so it'll just go to atmosphere rather than getting recirculated. And I've actually got this 90 left over, and I figured if I put it right like that, because the catch can sits over there on that wee bolt, so if I was to aim it just like that, it dodges the intercooler, the throttle position, the throttle, all the wiring and everything, and just heads that way. So you can just have a small short bit of silicone that just joins it to the catch can once it's bolted in. So the main thing I need to do is, once it's covered in oil, I need to pull this off, drill the 2 holes in it, and fully degrease it, just so it's ready to be welded. And I'll probably grab a wee bit of paint or something to go on it, just freshen it up a bit. Probably just do black. It's the easiest thing to go with. But hopefully that sorts out all our crankcase ventilation issues. And we don't have to worry about that after this. So yeah, I'm still waiting on a few bits to plumb the coolant sensor in, and for the oil pressure gauge. So I've got that all cleaned up. I haven't blasted the whole thing, I just sort of tried to take off any rust. And I need to go pick up the oil filter, and I think I'll get some high temp paint for that. When I get back, I'll hit it with the heat gun, take off any water that's left. Then we'll probably put it back on at that point and find out just exactly where to position these, maybe even tack them in on the car. Yeah, it's looking good. The only thing I don't know about is, like, look in here, there's like baffles or something for, I don't know, oil to vent through, probably for the wee PCV here. I hope doing all this and welding pipes in won't fuck with that too much. Hopefully it's okay, because I'm hoping not much will come through this, because it'll go through the path of least resistance through here. That's all I can think. So I'll have to run on now. That a couple of minutes to cool. It's a lot of smoke coming out of it because I think it was pretty much still covered in oil, and just because of that baffle there wasn't much I could really do about it. So I welded on now either way. Hopefully there's no holes in it. I sort of went over myself with my weld a couple of times just to make sure there was no holes. It all looks good now, so let it cool. I need to tape up those holes there, just these, and then the oil filter, and then I'm just going to hit it with some high temp black. While I was getting ready to go out, the bung arrived with a sensor. This one here. And I went to the hardware store and I was able to get some 25mm or 1-inch stainless pipe. So I'm thinking right now, basically where, slightly behind where that clamp is, down here, right here, I've just cut in there, putting literally just like 4 inches of pipe in, drilling a hole, welding the bung in, and then clamping it back together. And hopefully that will be the sensor sorted. So I think I'll just cut this pipe just like we want to leave enough room for this clamp to go on, so we'll leave maybe, and we'll leave enough room so we can slip this on, so really about that sort of area there. I just put the radiator in very quickly just to get an idea of where it needs to go, but it shouldn't be an issue. It should be fairly easy to get this sorted. Just need to measure, cut, drill a hole, weld that in. So first things first, I'm I'm gonna just take the radiator back out and put that cut in it. Got that made up. Just back it in there. So I'll have spaced out the coolant pipe maybe an inch or so to make way for the sensor, but hopefully it doesn't actually, mess with anything too much. And this is stainless steel, so hopefully it doesn't rust or anything. So, let's see here. Let's see if we've got a wee bit of pipe. Now we just need to literally just put that bump in there. Be sweet. Okay. Yeah, so that's welded in and plugged in. Just got the pipe going back here. So just gotta throw the radiator back in. Yeah, that's the radiator in. And the sensor's all plumbed up, so I'm gonna fill it up with coolant. And I might start it up a wee bit, start putting the front end back together, get the cross member on so the bonnet can at least be closed. But yeah, we're getting there, slowly but surely. I still have a couple of bits of wiring to do for those gauges. I just want to change how they're turned on, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal. So yeah, hopefully soon it'll all be sorted. Not much to go now. Well, it's a good thing I didn't put any coolant in it properly. Yeah, it's a good thing I didn't put coolant in it because quite predictably it's leaking. I can't tell if it's from the welds or from the bead. Like where the hose clamps are, if that's leaking. I would imagine it's probably the welds. So unfortunately I don't have a lot of time today, so I'm just going to have to leave it and just let it leak overnight. It's just water, so it'll do no harm. Yeah, if it's leaking while it's cold, it'll definitely leak when it's on. So I think it's probably best if I just pull it back out. I'll probably grind all the welds down, check for any pinholes and re-weld anything and grind and re-weld until it looks perfect. Then I'm thinking, because it's just bare pipe going into the rubber pipes, I'm thinking I might try and weld, just tack very lightly around the pipe to put a bead on it so the hoses have something to sort of grab onto. Yeah, but that'll have to wait till tomorrow. So I think for today we've made pretty good progress. We've got the radiator in nicely. We've sort of got the front cross member and all back in, so that's looking good. I may take some of it back out to do that pipe, but we'll see. Hopefully I can do it in place. But yeah, I think for now the car will probably stay like this until the other parts come in. So tomorrow I'll sort out that wee pipe. But beyond that, that's probably all I can really do. Yeah, but it's coming together slowly but surely. Yeah, so I'm hoping for next time we work on this, I'll have the brake pads, oil pressure sensor, and I'll have that pipe sorted. I might tomorrow, when I do the pipe, I might try and do a bit of the wiring. I was talking about, and then after that, once the brake pads are in, we can do the brakes as well, and then hopefully we can take it for a quick test drive and get the MOT booked. So I've got, I think, a week from tomorrow before the Cars and Coffee, and I really hope I can get the car done. So it'd be really good to have it done for that. So we'll see how we get on. I have a feeling once it's actually driving, we'll definitely be having some teething problems, just with the amount the car breathing through the crankcase and all that. I hope we don't run into issues with pistons or head gaskets or anything like that. It's just all an unknown with how the engine's built at the minute. But if it all goes well, we should have a proper wee rocket on our hands. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to pack up now and we'll get back to it tomorrow.